The purpose of this short lesson is to illustrate that you can tell a good story in a meaningful way within the 5-paragraph format. And I want to give you some examples of techniques to use to make that happen. And then I'm going to spend some time going over an example of one that I think can be useful to give you an idea of how that can all come together. So let's look at some tips and techniques for writing the 5-paragraph personal narrative. So what we have here is just an overview of the basic elements of a 5-paragraph essay, the introduction and thesis statement, 3 or 4 paragraphs. And when I say 5-paragraph essay, if you go to 6 paragraphs, I'm not going to have a problem with it. If you go to 15, it's going to be a problem. But 3 or 4 paragraphs that concisely tell the story, that use transition language to get you from one place to another. I'm going to give you some examples of what that means here in just a minute. It's not as difficult or as exotic as you might think. And then you have a good, strong conclusion. Now, because this is a college composition, it doesn't mean you can't use a little bit of humor or, you're telling a story. One of the things to be aware of is that you can't tell your life story in 5 paragraphs. You're going to tell a very, very compact story. And so you're going to be identifying the key parts of this, and you're going to be needing to discard all but the most essential elements. There might be pieces of this that you really want to put in there, and there's just no way to do it. You want to think about driving forward your story and eliminating all the stuff that doesn't serve that purpose. So what I like to talk about is techniques to propel the narrative so that you're quickly moving from one idea to the next. This is a 5-paragraph essay, so you don't have a lot of space to wander about. You're not writing Shakespeare, you're not writing Hemingway, you're writing a short little story that should have some punch. And so you start with an outline that creates the scaffolding for what you're going to write, and that's an important part of this. That's why I require an outline on your first 2 essays. Think about, again, I'm going to show you this here in the next slide. How do you use transitional language to keep the story moving forward? Use active voice and declarative sentences. I have other lessons on what active voice means, and I think you all should know what a declarative sentence is. If you're not sure what active voice is, or if you're not sure what a declarative sentence is, there are tons of places to go to learn more about that. Again, I give you Purdue OWL. Great place to go to learn about active voice and how to write a good, solid declarative sentence. After you've written your first draft, let it sit for a day or 2 and then go back and just be violent with your first effort. Edit it really hard. Take out the stuff that doesn't need to be there. Finally, one good, useful technique that is helpful to your audience is to vary your sentence length. It's okay to have a sentence that's 3 or 4 words, and it's okay to have sentences that are much longer. Just make sure the grammar, punctuation, spelling is correct. But by varying up the length of your sentence, you're making your story more interesting and more easier to read. Okay, I know this is a lot of words. It's an entire personal narrative 5-paragraph essay, a good one. This was one of the winners of a New York Times essay contest for students, and it illustrates what I'm talking about here, and I want you to spend some time with it. I know it's a lot of words, but I'm going to give you some things to look at. First of all, there's a thesis statement there. It's very clear, and it's the last sentence in the first paragraph. For the first time in my life, I thought about how convenient it would be to wear the horrendous matching plaid skirts that private schools enforce. So that's sort of summarizing what's going on in the writer's head. And so it serves as the thesis statement. And it's something that she will come back to. So you see here also in these middle paragraphs, she has used words and sentences to move you into the next idea. So when she writes, it wasn't insecurity driving me to madness, that's her way of going from talking about plaid skirts to linking into the next paragraph. So there are many, many ways to do that. What you just want to think about, how do you build the bridge between the introductory paragraph and now where you're going to basically tell the meat of the story. There's another one here, a really good one. This transition in the third paragraph, the last sentence. But as I turned the corner into my class, my jaw dropped to the floor. So she's telling you that something is about to happen. She's bringing you now into the next paragraph. That's a great tactic, a great way to get you into the next, which will be the fourth paragraph of the story. Then she kind of brings it to a summary at the end of the fourth paragraph when she says, I was relieved to make a humorous and genuine connection with my first teacher, one that would continue for the remainder of the year. So that is, in a sense, transition paragraph as well, because she's now taking you to where she's going to put the conclusion together. And then in her conclusion, it's not a long conclusion. It's not it's not heavy. There's a little light humor even in this conclusion, but throughout and at the end, it's active language. It's declarative sentences. It doesn't waste any space. It gets right to the point, but it does it in a way where it tells a story. There's just enough background. There's just enough sort of parenthetical, this is what I was thinking sort of thing, to make it this 7 minutes of reading an interesting story that takes you from one place to another and to the end of the story in 5 paragraphs. This is a great example of how to put together a personal narrative about something, about a story, in a way that doesn't require page after page. 5 paragraph personal narrative done well.